So today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's hopefully going to be a very short little episode of me sharing how I like to store all of my yarn, crafting supplies, fabric, knitting needles, all that sorts of stuff. It's very small. I don't have a lot, so this should be rather quick. I purchased this adorable little bookshelf slash nook in Okinawa, Japan when I lived there. It was in a thrift store and I paid about $75 for it. Honestly, it's been one of my favorite pieces of furniture, and it's held up pretty well over time with all of the moving and shuffling it around. It has very little damage on it, which is pretty great. So I thought we would start in one of the more simple sections, which would be the book collection area. My book collection is very small, and I'm very particular about what type of books I purchase. A lot of them have been either purchased secondhand or they were on sale. A few of them have been gifted to me or were collected when somebody else was giving away a lot of books. All of them pertain to yarn and knitting, except for this little section over here, which is not. My favorite books of all time that I have ever personally purchased are these ones right here. These are A Treasury of Knitting Patterns by Barbara G. Walker, whose original book I found at the library many years ago, and I absolutely loved it, and it taught me a lot about knitting. I learned how to knit lace and cables and all that stuff through her books. And it was really fun because I was able to just be creative and create my own patterns rather than have to follow someone else's, especially when you're a new knitter, you're kind of nervous about doing that. So sometimes it takes a while to get the encouragement to actually read a pattern and learn how to understand it and knit a gauge swatch and things like that. It can seem really intimidating as a new knitter, but a book like this, where it's just a dictionary of stitch patterns, can really start shaping and guiding the way you knit. The rest of these, I have some Alice Starmore books. I have a majority of stitch pattern books because that's just something that I find that I gravitate towards more than an actual pattern book. Although I do have one Lane magazine, which I've been knitting things out of, and I've actually been using those patterns. I have a wonderful little green bean zine, which is by one of my favorite authors slash cartoonists slash knitters, which is Katie Greenbean. She wrote this wonderful little note for me. I mean, look at the inside of that. It's beautiful. I highly suggest you check her out. Her podcast is so wonderful and charming. And I also have a few books in Japanese because I lived in Japan, so I bought books in Japanese. I cannot read or speak Japanese, but regardless, their knitting books were wonderful when I purchased them. These few books over here are their artwork, so I have some watercolor. This is an inspirational book, as in inspirational for artwork. The Country Diary of an Edwardian Lady. My sister-in-law showed me this book. I do wish I purchased a copy that wasn't quite so yellow, but it does add a certain type of feel to it. But it's just a nature journal by a woman from the 1920s, and it's really beautiful. So I use that for inspiration for nature and making my own nature journal and stuff like that. I have my sketchbook, sashiko book, and then I keep all of these brown paper bags because I will use them for gifts for people. Although typically what we store over here is technology, so we'll keep our laptops and iPad and stuff over here sometimes. Alright, let's move on to this drawer. We're going to make this short and sweet. This is just my fabric. So I actually just last week went through all of my fabric and actually got rid of quite a lot of it. It was donated to a senior's home. I do have a little bit more than this and a little bit more than what you see on my shelf. A lot of it is small pieces that I'm kind of collecting for a new quilt that will be made someday. It's a lot of scrap pieces. But all of this is just more sentimental to me. A lot of this was purchased in Japan. Some of it was a gift to me from my friend. I have a lot of cat fabric. I have a Gudetama fabric. As you can see, some Sanrio characters over here. So yeah, this is just very precious to me. A lot of it is cottons, some of it is like bedtime soft children's fabric, but all of this is stuff that I will use. I have a good collection of canvas from when I was making purses and bags. But yeah, all of this is stuff that I will find use for someday, and it's pretty nice to just have it on hand. I feel so much better about this drawer. It was packed full of stuff before, and so much of it was never going to get used. So I feel really good about this, and it'll be fun to kind of see what some of this stuff becomes. But that's going to be much later down the road. Okay, now for everyone's favorite part, the yarn. I have a pretty small yarn collection. What you see here and what you see over here on that side. And then I have one miscellaneous bag of Knit Picks palettes stored in a box that will one day become a sweater. So it's just biding its time until I cast it on. This over here is going to be a weekender sweater. This is going to be a pattern by Hoagie Locatelli. This is TBD. This is Let Lo Be. It was an impulse buy. That's what this was. I kind of regret it because I don't know what I'm going to do with it, and it's waiting until I do. Over here is more of a random mishmash of smaller bits of yarn. I'm not going to go through all of it. All of it does have a future though. I do have this planned out for what all of this will be turned into someday. I'm really trying my best to go through everything that I have first, especially my larger quantities, and making sure that those are actually being knit into something before I go and purchase expensive yarn. We can talk about this section really quickly. I didn't want to spend too much time on it because it's pretty straightforward. It's just fabric. This little pile right here is actually pre-cut. These are projects that I will be finishing. Do excuse the meowing in the background. My cat woke up from a nap. It's a little cranky and he wants some attention. But yeah, all of this is going to be tote bags, little miniature project bags and things like that, things that I can gift away. I do have this bunting that I've been planning on making for like years now. I thought it would just be an easy, fun, little mindless project to do while I listen to podcasts. That for this section over here. So we can talk a little bit about this. This is really straightforward. These are all project bags that I have made myself. I sew project bags, and I have a variety of them, and I just store them all in here. I should actually be using this larger sweater bag for my actual sweater project, but since I don't really go anywhere, I just don't find it necessary to put everything into a bag. And then this is just the rest of the yarn for my shifty sweater, so it's just chilling out until I need it. This cupboard here, this actually stores a bunch of sewing notions and embroidery thread and embroidery projects. And then everything down here is all my knitting notions. So I have needles, and then I have all my needle sets are in here, and double pointed needles. Here comes a little kitty to join us. The really random thing I have in here is Scotch tape, but it's just very accessible when it's kept in here. I don't really know why. I don't like having it on my desk, but in here it's out of sight, but it's really easy to get some tape when you need tape. Perfect. The last storage area that I have is this metal tin that I believe my husband and I like won a raffle or something, or somebody sent us this, and it was filled with like kitchenware. I don't know. But we have it, and I have used it for a very long time to store all of my little excess knitting paraphernalia. Currently in here is a project that I have set aside for right now. I will be returning to it. I have a finished object, the branch hat. I have my collection of random bits of sock yarn that I have been saving up and will one day make something with. So some of it I mix up and I turn into random socks and stuff. And I do have some random other samples for, not samples, I have some random other yarn in there that I can always use to make like mismatched pair of hand warmers. I just tried to collect sort of the same type of yarn. Like I said, all sock yarn or a lot of like one ply hand dyed yarn and things that I could smush together and make a project out of. I have my collection of Knit Picks a Loft mohair, which I've had for many years, ever since I started making fox ears. That's why there's a specific color palette here of red, black, and white. And I used to sell those on Etsy back in the day. And then I have the rest of this beautiful collection of yarn that's from a sweater that I unraveled and will be re-knitting into a different sweater, which I'm very excited about, and it will be my next project. So that's why it's kind of here until it needs to be cast on. And that's it. That's all that I have. So very simple, very small, and I love it that way. I thought that I would share all of this with you because I am going to be moving soon and I enjoy filming, or I should say I enjoy documenting sort of how my space was set up in a specific place that I lived in. I did the same thing for Okinawa, and it's just fun to kind of look back and just see what's changed over the years, especially my organization or my interests and my color palettes, all those sorts of things. So it was great to kind of explore this and share it with you. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this little tour and that maybe you got some ideas of how you want to organize your space or manage your yarn collection or whatnot. Please feel free to comment down below how you store your yarn and your fabric or whatever your craft is. I'd love to know. It'd be very interesting. Everybody has fun techniques and ways that they like to do things. Like this video if you liked it. Thumbs down this video if you didn't like it. Also feel free to subscribe and follow me for more content. Most of my videos are just vlogs of me crafting or creating over maybe a month's period of time, and just what I get up to. So
I don't love you anymore.
That's all. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Love you anymore.
She's with